Hey everybody! The purpose of this video is to get you some solutions to this quiz on the Ford Escape Hybrids 2012. You got the base price for each and the mileage per each city. We'll come back to that in a second. So what I did, I opened up the Excel sheet myself and got the redid it here for you so you can actually see what we're talking about. And if you take a look at the graph, both on the quiz and also on the spread, it's really blurry on here. I apologize for that. Here it's a little bit better. You can see that it takes about 150,000 miles for us to get the hybrid to cost less than the V6. And the reason, of course, that costs less eventually is the cost of gas is less, 9 cents per mile versus 13 cents per mile. Okay, so the first question I asked you in the quiz, though, was what gas cost did I assume? And we just answered that on the board, which we fused in here. I wanted to show you that in the spreadsheet I actually used that to get the number 13 and 9. And I also wanted to prove to you if I expand the decimal a couple more places, you'll see that I was actually wrong on the video. I said the video is 0.1278, it's 0.1304 and 0.0882. So we actually underestimated how much the gas cost in the hybrid and overestimated how much it cost in the underestimated V6 and overestimated hybrid. Okay, so regardless, that's our gas cost. Now, what I wanted you to do in the remainder of the quiz was to mess with the correct mileages, because what I did was, for whatever reason, I still have no recollection as to why I did this. I said that 23 miles per gallon was a city mileage for the V6. That's actually wrong. It's 18 city, 23 highway. I had it right for the hybrid, 34 city. So we're going to mess with that. So I said rerun, but use the correct V6 mileage of 18. Okay, so it's the exact same thing here, but instead of this being 3 divided by 23, it's going to be 3 divided by 18, because based on the mathematics we did in class. And watch what happens to the lines when we do that. All right, there we go. So since the V6 now has worse mileage than the hybrid overtakes it much earlier. It only takes about 80,000 miles for it to overtake the V6. Hopefully that makes sense. If it's getting worse mileage, if the V6 is getting worse mileage than the hybrid, it should take not as much time to pay for itself. Okay, or for the hybrid to pay for itself. All right, number 2, same thing, but do the highway mileage. Okay, so now we're going to switch hybrid over to 31 miles a gallon, which is going to lower its slope, good, or excuse me, raise its slope, because it costs more now. And we're going to bop this back down to 23, which is going to lower its slope, which is going to have the effect of making it, ooh, we have to go out further. Look at that, 175,000 isn't good enough. Let's go out 200,000 and see if that's good. That's not bad. That looks like it's crossing, what, about 184,000, so 185,000 miles, somewhere in that neighborhood. And depending on where you put your pointer, it's going to be close to that. So it takes quite a bit longer, right? I mean, when we were at the city mileage, it took 80,000 miles. It takes 100,000 more miles, or I mean, something like what, like 10 or 9 or 10 or 8 years of driving, if you're on the highway most of the time, to pay for itself. That's good to know. That's good to know. All right. And then last but not least, redo number 2 again, but now change city driving mileage, but 450 a gallon. 450 a gallon, which I checked the day I made this quiz. So we're going to make this we're doing city, so this is going to be 4.5 divided by 18. And let's make sure I type everything right, which I didn't. Okay, there's your slope of your, wow, yeah, that makes sense actually, 4.5 divided by 18. And then the hybrid is going to be 4.5 divided by 34. Okay, and then, yep, there it is right there. And it looks like this puppy dog crosses somewhere in the neighborhood, I'm going to drop this back so I can get a better number. Looks like just about 50,000 miles. It does not take long at all. I mean, if you think about 54,000 miles-ish, somewhere in 54,000 miles. And that's what I asked you here. I said, okay, assuming you drive 12,000 miles a year, how many years would your answer in number 4 imply? So if you do 12,000 miles, every other year it's 12,000 more. So 12,000, 24,000, 36,000, 48,000, and then you wouldn't get to 60, somewhere about 4.5 years of driving. So just think about the differences here, right? Here, in number 2, it took us 80,000 miles to break even with the hybrid, which is, 7 years, something like that. If you're doing highway driving, it takes 10 more years, so 17 years. Here, if you're back in the city and gas jumps up by 50%, it only takes 4 years. So that's what number 6 was all about down here. Number 6 was getting you to discuss how you can use this information to decide which kind of car to buy. Because there's a lot of stuff going on. The answer, as always, with something like this is it depends on a lot of things. Are you predominantly going to be driving stop and go city driving? Then a hybrid does make sense. It's going to pay for itself much more quickly. Is the gas where you live expensive, or do you plan on it being expensive? If the answer is yes, you should get a hybrid, because if it's city driving. Now, what we didn't do, you know what we should do too? Let's change this back to highway driving with $4.50 a gallon gas. Yeah, let's see where it takes now. I didn't have you do that one scenario, did I? And it looks to be, it's still going to take a while. It's going to take 125,000 miles. So it's going to take 75,000 more miles to break even on the hybrid doing highway driving than doing city driving. But still, it's still going to break even relatively quickly. So I'm not saying the hybrid's for everybody. I'm not saying that the V6 is for everybody. I'm saying it depends on the type of driving you're doing. So hopefully that helped, and we'll see you in class.